working one-on-one or working directly with clients, it's very different than managing a team of, 80 staff members. I was ready to put on bootstraps and be able to have that connect again with game changers, life changers. People need help now more than ever. When we look at the economy, you look at people's health, you look at people's relationships, you look at the dynamics of parents and kids, and it's a crazy freaking world out there right now. With Marc, I got to witness the level of training and what he put into training for becoming a Navy SEAL. In the business space, with what we get to do, it's just a matter of doing the things that need to be done. The technology space in our world is moving quick. So we're working on some really exciting things that are coming up here in the next quarter. It's a really fun, fast-moving industry right now.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nicky Ballou. And boy, do we have an exciting, amazing guest lined up for you today. Today's guest is a close relative of my greatest friend and mentor, the one and only Marc Von Musser. This man himself is a thought leader in his own right. He is a true legend in the space of enrollment and sales from the heart. I am speaking, of course, of none other than the one, the only, the legendary Brook Bishop. Welcome to the show, Brook.
Welcome. Stoked to be here, man. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So, brother, the folks who listen to this show are outside of the folks who fight, bleed, and die to keep the rest of us free. Society's greatest heroes. They're the ones with the big dream, with the vision of a future, a glorious future that they want to have come alive for people. And what's amazing about these folks is they come here to listen, not because of me, because I'm here every week. They come here because they want to learn from you. But before they can open themselves up to you, man, they got to get to know you. So tell us your backstory. How'd you get to be the great Brook Bishop?
Love throwing the new word in front of the name. Not giving me a little extra things to live up to here. Yeah, man, I've been, it's interesting that now on this side of things, I'll say I'm blessed, right? So I'm blessed to have had a very interesting journey leading up to this point in time. But I was very, very blessed to have Marc Von Musser as my uncle. So he really took me under his wing when I was young. So I was about 16 years old when I really got to be mentored by him. So back in those days, he was training for, actually it was a couple years prior to that, but he was training to be a Navy SEAL. And at that point in time, we shared a room together. So I had the top bunk, he had the bottom bunk when he was training to go to BUD/S. And every day when I get home from school, he'd either have Zig Ziglar or Tony Robbins or, Bob Proctor. He always had somebody that was, influential in the tape cassette, basically. And so at a very young age, I got to hear a lot of the guys in personal development really, through osmosis. It wasn't by choice, but because I was in proximity to Marc, that content got pumped into my brain very, very early. So yeah, from there, we got to work with some incredible human beings over the course of time. So one of Marc's mentors, a gentleman named Daniel Penley. So he was in Los Angeles. So he was a sales trainer. So I got to go work with him for a number of years, got to work with the largest coaching organization in North America, a company called Buffini & Company. So I got to work with them for a number of years. And then I got recruited by Tony Robbins. So I did 15 years. Sounds like a prison sentence. But I did 15 years with Tony as an executive. So yeah, man, there's so many different angles and spaces we could go within that. But that's the short version of it. And then now on my side, we run a consulting firm for coaches. So help them with their sales, help them with marketing, help them with really their mindset around all of it and who they are and how they're running and gunning to be able to serve more people.
I love it, man. I absolutely love it. So let's go back a little bit down memory lane when you were, bunking with Marc. What was that like? How did that come to be? That sounds amazing. I would love to be with Marc for 6 months. I think it would be transformational.
It was. And at the time, it's really interesting because at the time I was not a very competitive person. I was really into my artwork and surfing and just kind of rolling with time. But being that in close proximity with Marc, yeah, I mean, it's just like anybody else, whoever you're going to spend your time with, it's going to rub off on you. And so with Marc, I got to witness the level of training and what he put into training for becoming a Navy SEAL. And so for me, young teen, it really shaped how I started taking care of my body. And whereas before I was very, just roll with the flow, kind of status quo. Being in that pressure cooker of time, I looked at life more from a place of possibility versus a place of, what feels good in the moment. He is, at that point in time, he was going to school. He was also training. So in terms of PT, and he was actually way older than any of the other people going in. So he had an uphill climb for the way he was approaching it. So every day I was doing flashcards with him, right? So for him to learn all the material, and as well as learning Spanish simultaneously. So here he was training for Navy SEALs. He was also learning a new language, and he was also getting a bunch of school stuff done. And I got to be his right hand and supporting him through that, which was cool because I got to pick up on a lot of that just by the nature of being there in the orbit.
So you got to hang out with the great Marc Von Musser as he was going for SEAL training, and you got to be infused with positivity. So what had you pivot from that to getting into the coaching space?
So fast forward, maybe let's say 5-6 years. So when I was about 18, now it's funny because in hindsight's 2020. At the moment in time, I thought it was a traumatic experience, right? So my girlfriend at the time had actually cheated on me with my stepbrother.
Oh my!
And the majority, high school, it was one of those things where I was heartbroken. But the part that was tricky is a lot of my family members knew about it. And so I felt betrayed. And where Marc came into the mix is he had gotten out of the Navy about a year prior to that. And that's really when he took me under his wing, because he saw how, upside down depressed I was. And I graduated out of school about 9 months early. So I basically didn't have to even go to my senior year because he helped me get creative on that. And so I actually tested out of school early and got into the game of sales with his tutorship. And really got to learn how to sell from front of stage, how to work the phones, and it was in the space of real estate, but predominantly coaching realtors. And so I didn't have to go through what a lot of people go through of, cutting their teeth, just trying to figure out how to do things. I got firsthand experience right out of the gates of do this, don't do that. I got training on my tonality. I got training on, how to communicate with people, how to build rapport. And so Marc, for that first 2 years, we were traveling all over the place together. And so we got to drive everywhere and listen to everything we could under the moon. And we got to practice on and drill different pieces of the sales process. And so it was really cool because I got to see him sell from front of a room. And I got his training right after. He'd come off stage and be like, here's what I did. Here's why I did it. And then I got to start selling front of room. And I also got to start selling one-on-one. And I got a pressure cooker that I honestly, I don't know anyone else that's been out there at that early age that had that kind of a mentor.
Wow. So you had Marc, you got into the world of coaching, and then all of a sudden, dude, you're working for frickin' Tony Robbins. Like, the most iconic of the personal transformation mentors in the world. How did that happen? And how'd you end up being there for 15 years, dude?
Yeah, it was really interesting. So it was funny because when Marc and I were driving around, LA, going to one of our events, and we were listening to Tony on, back then it was on CD or cassette or whatever the heck it was. And we were both talking, we're like, how cool would it be to one day to be at Tony's Island? And, we could meet Tony one day, and we were, just future casting. And then you fast forward, it was about maybe less than 10 years later, we were in Tony's living room in Fiji with Tony, planning where the next year, where the business was going to go. It's pretty wild, like contrast of less than a decade. It was like, poof, happened. But yeah, no, I when I started with Tony, I actually started out in their coaching sales department. And so I sold right off the phones for about 6 years. I was doing coaching sales. And it was wild because in being in that space with somebody like Tony, the diversity of clientele that comes through there, I have one person who literally was, in an insane asylum who somehow snuck out and got to a phone and called in.
Damn.
I hang up the phone with that person. Then the next phone call, I pick up that call and it was, the CEO of Yahoo India, he wanted to be a billionaire next year. So it was like this massive contrast of experiences. And there's nowhere like it with somebody with a brand as big as Tony. So, but yeah, with Marc, when he came in, because he came in as the director of coaching. So I was actually already there prior. So I was there for about 5 years before Marc came on. And it was awesome because I got to work on the coaching sales side. He was running all things coaching. So he was the director of coaching for the whole company. And so it was cool because we got to tag team things from, in a multitude of different ways, which was a lot of fun.
That's amazing. And so you were there for 15 years. And I bet you learned a ton about a lot of things, not the least of which was how to be the most effective salesperson, the most effective enroller that you could possibly be. And what made you decide finally to get into business for yourself?
It's a really good question. Yeah, it's interesting. So working with somebody like Tony, or even working with somebody like Marc, they both are, they're moving a million miles per hour, and their level of intensity is, I don't know if I know anyone else on the planet that's more intense than those two human beings. So I was an executive with Tony for let's say 11 years out of the 15. I had 3 different divisions. So I oversaw all of his business mastery events, his business coaching programs. I had 4 different divisions within that. And for me, it was really when COVID actually hit, the in-person event game radically changed. And so I had to make a true gut decision where I'm going, okay, I spent 15 years building up and building Tony's brand and supporting Tony, and still love him to death. I was actually on with him and his team this morning, actually. They're incredible human beings, but when COVID hit, I went, okay, my age, Tony's age, where the industry, the marketplace is at, it's going to take at least 3 years to rebound and bring back what their world looked like in terms of the amount of revenue and the teams and the dynamic and the culture and just all the pieces of it. And I had to make a gut check where I'm like, do I want to spend the next 3 years building that back to what I'd already spent 15 years to build it to? Or do I want to use this as my opportunity to pull the ripcord and build and be able to truly run a business the way that I wanted to do it and to meet the type of clients that I wanted to be working with? So as I'm sure you probably know, right? Like working one-on-one or working directly with clients, it's very different than managing a team of, 80 staff members. So yeah, I was ready to put on bootstraps and be able to have that connect again with the game changers, life changers.
So you started off in sales, you got into being an executive, you ran 4 divisions for Tony Robbins, the biggest kahuna of them all. And then you pulled the ripcord and you decided to do your own thing. So what about that right now is driving you? What about that is making you reach for the best version of Brook Bishop?
Yeah, the things that fire me up about it, the industry is changing faster now than any other time I've ever seen it. And so, I've been in the coaching space for coming up on 25 years now. So to see where it is today, to see the level of training that coaches are able to get, to see how upside down the world of marketing is and how crazy that's pivoting and changing, to see where sales has gone. So I'm in this fun space where I've gotten to see a lot of the evolution of where it was, where it is, and people need help now more than ever. So when we look at the economy, you look at people's health, you look at people's relationships, you look at the dynamics of parents and kids, and like it's a crazy freaking world out there right now.
Yep.
And in the business space with what we get to do, where things that people come into our orbit and they go, oh my God, it's so complex, it's so challenging. And from our vantage point, we're like, it's It's not. It's just a matter of doing the things that need to be done. But the technology space in our world is moving quick. That's one of the things I'm really fired up about. So we're working on some really exciting things that are coming up here in the next quarter. So yeah, I don't know. It's a really fun, fast moving industry right now. And the people that are around for a long time are getting moved out. New people are coming in, and the game is changing more rapidly.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I know a lot of folks that have been around for a long time in this space. Some of them are doing well, some of them are not doing so well. I don't want to name names or anything, but it's really interesting to watch. And they've got good content, they've got good stuff that they teach people. They just don't necessarily know how to operate in this new environment. And to tell you the truth, for me, it's a little bit dizzying to try to figure out exactly how to operate. The things I'm really good at is I'm good at speaking on stages. I'm good at podcasting. I'm good at being a guest on podcasts. Those things are working. The things I got to get good at is how to build, funnels with paid traffic, how to get better at using LinkedIn and things like that. And it just seems to move, like you say, super, super quick. But Marc has always taught me the most important thing that I need to do is to get my vibration up, is to win on every call, even if, the person says no, or if I can't get them past an objection or whatever, which happened today. I messed it up, quite frankly. I didn't handle the objection the way I could have handled it. But at one level, I also am looking at that as a win. God wanted it to go this way for me. As a learning ground, and maybe this person wasn't the ideal client for me anyway. So either way, I win. I got the lesson and the win. I think what you're doing is really important because my lady is Teresa Dugwell. Do you know Teresa? She was at Tony under Marc.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So we worked together, and she was
awesome.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah, she's my partner in life and business. She and I were talking, and she said to me something. She said, "Look, Nikki, your greatest competitive advantage. It's not what you know about thought leadership. It's not, your enrollment skills. It's not how good you are on a podcast. It's none of that crap." She says, your greatest competitive advantage is that you love people, you believe in people, you care about them, you pour into them. And that's what people need today. And Marc always says this, is have your vibration be high, let people see that you care about them, make that at the center of what you do. And that's what he said about you. He said, Brook's like us. Brook believes in people. Brook loves people. He said, you're going to have to meet Brook. You got to put him on your show sometime. And I told him I was going to have you on. He said, oh, that's good. You're going to enjoy that conversation. I go, yeah, I know. And he said that Brook's got his own company now. So, we could figure out ways to do more stuff with him, right? Because I said, cool, man. Well, if he's like you, man, damn, I'm in. Let's go. Let's make a few things happen. And it strikes me, man, that as fast as things are moving, what a lot of these old timers are missing the point on is they're not leading from love. They're not leading from their heart. They're leading from, let me get the next sale real quick, right? Am I wrong about this?
No, you're spot on. And I hate to say it this way. So many people in the industry have conditioned people to show up that way. So their marketing, their push, make millions while, sitting from the couch in your house. Like it's shifted and put somewhat of a dark cloud over the industry. Whereas, the mass majority of coaches I always talk to, they are heart-driven individuals. They got into the game because they really, truly want to help people. And then they realize, oh crap, I actually have to make money doing this. But then what happens is they get into these other masterminds or trainings and they get conditioned that it needs to be all about the money. And it doesn't usually start off that way, but it starts off in the sense of like, oh, you need this many clients making this much money so that you can run your business. So they have somewhat altruistic intent, but then it very much moves to, what are your numbers? What are your numbers? What are your numbers? And the human soul gets swept out of the freaking room. And so then you get into these calls and people start selling from a place of desperation and from a place of, Marc would call it commission breath, right?
Commission
so
breath. I love that phrase, man. Commission breath.
Right. So people feel that they more than anything, moreover than your strategy is they're going to feel your intention. They can feel it through your tonality. They can feel it in the way in which you show up and hold space for them. It shows up in the way in which you dig and ask the right questions, or when you hear the things that aren't said. So yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting space where you have, the economics of it. But I truly believe that 9 out of 10 coaches if you were to sit down and talk to them, they have a genuine heart to serve, and they get swept into these tactics to try and make a buck.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with making the money. So I don't want to sway
great.
that either.
Money's
but
great.
But when it's the driver, it puts us in a position to make, different decisions, and people can feel it.
Yeah. I want to call this episode The Heart Driver. We created out of working with Marc, we created a new designation because we were known for thought leadership, and we called it heart leadership. Be known for being a thought leader with a heart.
Love that.
Yeah. Heart leadership's good. And it's really, really important for everybody to have somebody who believes in them and who cares about them. I was talking to a fellow who is an early mentor of mine, and we've done some work together recently. His name's Raymond Aaron, right? And what I said to Raymond is, I think everybody in business just needs somebody to care about them, to love them, to believe in them long enough until their own self-belief ignites and catches fire. And then they also need to learn how to be good at enrollment, because if you can't sell your ideas, you're screwed, right? Like, those are the two key things everybody needs. Like, if you give them your love and you show them, hey, don't say it that way, say it this way, so you get a better shot at getting the enrollment, I think they're good. All the other stuff's important and great. Don't get me wrong. And I teach a lot of that stuff. Believe me, come one of these days. I'd love to have you join us with Marc and sit in the room. Marc loves the stuff that we teach, and it's good stuff. But at the end of the day, those are the two things I think that are making the real difference.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah. I mean, you definitely have to have the skills, and you've got to have the chops. But I agree with you to have one person in your corner that can just, in that moment, and it's not that you need them all the time, but it's in that moment where you go, I'm going to hang up I'm going to hang up the shingle, right? I'm going to give up. To have that person that's in the corner that can go, no, you got this. Like, that's all it takes, right? Yeah. And I think that's the magic of somebody like me with having Marc in my world. The first time I picked up the phone, I was in tears because I was so petrified of what somebody was going to say. And I was so petrified I was going to say the wrong thing. And I was so petrified I was going to be judged. And oh my God, who am I to be making this call? But to have him there to go, what you're feeling is normal. Everybody feels that. And to go, let's pick it up again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. To the point that, I'm like, I have a duty to now pick up the phone. And if I don't, like, to move from that place of fear and, being petrified to being in that space of I'm living out my purpose, that's the magic of one person being able to say, you got this.
Yeah. Amen. And it just makes a difference, and there's days where you just need that. There's weeks where you need that. I'm very grateful to have Marc in my life and to be mentored by him. And there are days where I'm good. I'm driving like crazy, and then there's days where a couple of bumps are met along the road, and I tumble off the bicycle and scrape my knees. And that's where you need a friend to just go, here's some mercurochrome. Let's clean off the dirt. Let's bandage up the scrape. Get back on that bike and let's rock and roll. It's a beautiful thing. So
yeah, and it's crazy the stats on that too. I mean, for anyone who's doing enrollment calls or whether you're coaching people, I mean, you figure 7 out of 10 people currently have been, or one day will be suicidal. Like, that's crazy when you think about it. So for us to be that catalyst, to be able to have an effect on that, we're in the arena And we're not in the arena selling widgets. We're in the arena selling people's dreams back to them and helping them hold that vision and being there at their worst and hopefully at their best. So to take that on, that is no simple task.
Yeah. 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 Amen, man. Amen. Amen, as they say. You know what, brother? I really love everything you're about. I mean, you speak like Marc. You think like Marc. You push the human race forward just the way that Marc does with your love and your caring for people. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. So if folks want to find out about you and what you're all about, where do we send them?
Yeah, two different places. One, if anyone's needing support on the sales side of things, they want to have a heart-centered way of enrolling clients. We have a free toolkit. So it's closeeveryone.com. So closeeveryone.com. Cool piece with it. If you guys want to learn the structure, just so you can get the recipe in the right order. If you've got the pure intent and if you follow the recipe, you should end up with a cake that's very similar. So we give that away in terms of the structure and the framing there. If you want to learn more just about us and just what we do as a company, empirepartners.io. So it's empirepartners.io. But yeah, we're in all avenues of the business of coaching. So whether it's people needing support with their technology, their systems, their marketing, all the different pieces of the puzzle, we're down to help, and we're an open book. So wherever people are at, we're happy to meet them there and help them get to that next threshold.
I think that's fantastic, brother. So we'll make sure we put all that in the show notes. I'm going to go check out your closeeveryone.com. I'd like to learn. Got to humble myself and learn from some masters like you and Marc. So it's good stuff. I really appreciate it. We'll put it in the show notes. So, Brook, we end off every episode by asking you, as our guest expert, what are your top 3 expert action steps? These are your very best pieces of advice that you would give my listener to help him, to help her take it up a gear, so they can really feel and believe that the best version of themselves is ready to pop. So what say you?
So I'll give you one that'll have multiple pieces. So from my vantage point, condition your purpose. Okay, so what I mean by that, so to condition your purpose, what I teach, this is with my team members, this is something I do every single day. This is something that I teach with the people who come through our program. Number 1 is give thanks for every single human being that gets put in front of you every day. Whether it's God, whatever his or her name is, the universe, whatever we want to call it, I truly believe that they are there for a reason. Now, whether they decide to enroll with you, whether they give you money, whether they don't, they're put in your path for you to get better or for you to make an impact. It's one of the two. And usually it's both. The second piece is before every single call, tap into what you're doing, why you're doing it, who you're serving, the benefit to you, the benefit to your family, the benefit to them, their family, to humanity, to the universe at large. And then the third piece of it is every day when you're done, give thanks for the people who you got to touch their lives and make a conscious switch to step out of superhero mode so that you don't carry the weight of their world on your shoulders. So it's the biggest thing, because when I was on the front line selling, I was doing 8 calls a day. And when you're mirroring and you're pacing and you're in people's worlds and you hear the traumas and people who are kidnapped or held hostage or tortured or all those different things, you take on all of their energy. So you want to have really strong practices to tap into your heart-centered reasons for what you're doing and why you're doing it. You want to have ways to manage that through the course of the day. And you also have to have a really clean way to break that so that you don't carry the weight of all of it when you end your day. That's what allowed me to do 8 calls a day for 6 years with Tony, and to be able to manage the volume and the magnitude of it. It allowed me to live my purpose. It still does to this day. It keeps me in a space of gratitude, and it also allows me to have all that separation to where the trauma and the pain of others does not become something that I have to then carry on.
You know, Brooke, I took detailed notes on everything you said. This is gold. Inside every human heart, inside every human breast beats the living heart of freedom, beats a heart that wants to be seen, be known, be heard, be acknowledged. And you are so on point, because that's where you come from. That's what you're all about. I got to say, it's an honor to know Marc, but it's an honor to get to know you today and to spend some time with you. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your wisdom with us. And I'm looking forward to doing this again with you. Hope you'll come back on the show, and let's find some let's find some ways to do a few things together, and let's find some ways to do a few things with the great Marc Von Musser as well. And let's make the world better through this powerful, positive energy. You're an awesome human being, brother. God bless you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, man, for bringing the message out to the masses and for hosting a space where these types of conversations can happen, man. So greatly appreciate you.
Yeah, you bet, man. My pleasure. That's an honor. And listener, Brook Bishop is the real deal. Go to the show notes at thethoughtleaderrevolution.com. Go to his closeeveryone.com. I'm going to go there and I'm going to, download that structure and recipe. I'm really interested in seeing it and learning about it. And go to his website, empirepartners.io. Get in touch with him. He's worth knowing. He's worth learning from. He's worth engaging with. So make sure that you do all of that good stuff. And if there's something you heard today and you got someone in your life who's not going through a good time, let's face it, there's a whole ton of people today that are nervous, scared, afraid. A few weeks ago, a war broke out in the Middle East, and a lot of people in the Jewish community and the Israeli community are feeling scared and are feeling like their voices aren't being heard, and that there's people out there that are maybe trying to repeat a Holocaust. And that's the type of person that might need to just hear a message like this. So share this message with them. Share this message with somebody who's hurting, and help them be uplifted, even if it's just for half an hour today. That's a half an hour where their brain is being poured into by love and positivity. And that's important. Brook Bishop, brother, thank you so much again for being on the show. God bless you.
Thank you, Nikki. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, you bet. And that wraps up another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. Find out more about the one and only Brook Bishop. Go to the show notes at thethoughtleaderrevolution.com, or wherever you happen to listen to this episode, be it iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Audible, YouTube, Rumble, or what have you. Until next time, goodbye.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.